At the Media Center live in Tampa, Florida. We're going to talk news and information right now with our maven, Adam Schefter, and the founder of Profootballtalk.com, the popular news and information website on the National Football League and all things football, Mike Florio, counselor. Welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me.
So now,
when I'm in court, I usually don't have one of these.
One of these. You don't have a mic flag or anything like that. So you are a lawyer by trade that started this website because you're just a big football fan? I mean, what happened?
Always been a football fan since I was a little boy,
right.
And it was a hobby back in 2001,
right.
and it grew and it grew, and now the law practice is the hobby and the full-time job is the website.
Sort of like Bo Jackson in a way, right? Bo Jackson, when football was the hobby or baseball was the hobby? And
I've yet to need a hip replacement.
Very good.
And hopefully I'll be able to avoid that.
You know what? And correct me if I'm wrong. Yeah. Mike's website, your website, is sometimes gleeful when there's a little media catfight. When one guy claims a story over another guy and he goes back, you sort of enjoy stirring that pot a little bit.
I love it anytime it doesn't involve me. So if I can get Adam and Glazer and Mortensen kind of going like we had Friday night with a certain report out of Kansas City, it was compelling stuff.
Were you headline news on ProFootballTalk.com?
I think he actually had the headline. I think it was Schefter and Mortensen in a mud wrestling fight or something like that.
He actually emailed me, said, is this real? You sure Shanahan's not going? Can I be any more clear about this? He's not going.
Right.
With all caps. All caps and profanity. Can I be any clearer?
All caps, just like the Raiders release when they called you a monger. Has anyone ever called you a monger? A false rumor monger?
I've been called worse than that, but that's usually at home.
So who is before? I've never really met Mike, so I got one more question.
I didn't meet him until yesterday.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
You've never met face to face? Ever?
No, never.
You're in a cave. Where are you operating?
I'm in West Virginia, West by God, Virginia, and I stay there and I take care of the website.
And you fire your arrows from West Virginia.
That's
in
right.
his pajamas.
In your pajamas?
No, underwear.
Okay.
Usually.
See, now that's too much information from ProFootballTalk.com. So who is, in your estimation, because you're looking at all this, who is the best information man in the business?
Well, yes. Well,
who is it? Come on.
Obviously, since I'm sitting next to Adam, I have to call it a three-way tie between Mr. Schefter, Mr. Glazer, and Mr. Mortensen. That's my official position.
Man. See, if somebody took that opinion, you'd blast them on ProFootballTalk.com. You'd blast them for that position.
And I invite someone to blast me on a blog.
You're a lawyer. Parse your words better than that. Come on. Can't you do that?
Each have their own unique strengths and styles.
Okay. Will you accept that answer, Adam?
And Adam is very relentless.
Listen, Chris is very good, and Jay's very good, and I work hard, and that's basically what it comes down to.
You're the best. I'm going to say it. I'm going to say he is the best. He is the best. As voted by the USA Today readers.
If I say Schefter, then I'm going to see Glazer, and he's going to put me in a headlock, and he's going to pull out my hair.
Glazer can hurt you.
Yeah.
He can hurt you.
You don't want to mess with Jay.
No, you don't want to mess with Jay. So let me go rapid fire with you guys then, since you're all locked in. First of all, I'm told that you have some good information on the subject that Dion, Warren, myself, and Steve were just kicking around about the Larry Fitzgerald restructuring of his contract. You've got some inside information on that?
Well, yeah, I mean, here's the problem. When you do a restructure this year, it's going to be different than other years because this is the last year with a salary cap. So the old tricks of taking that huge salary, converting it to a guaranteed payment so the guy gets the same amount of money, and then spreading the cap hit out over time, that's not going to be as easily done as in past years. So, I mean, Coach Mariucci's making great points, but this year, unless they would extend the CBA, which doesn't look likely, you're not going to. I mean, Larry Fitzgerald may have to take less money.
Where are we headed on that front? I mean, I don't mean to bring it down. It's a nice sunny day. It's Super Bowl 43, but the owners' meeting is coming up in less than 2 months. Is that going to be the story? The CBA is not going to be extended, and we're going to read a lot of rhetoric in the paper. Where is this headed right now?
No one's going to say that the CBA is not going to be extended, but the NFLPA will have its press conference tomorrow afternoon. Commissioner Goodell will have his State of the Union on Friday. And I'm sure that there will be some very foreboding language that is used by both sides. And everybody says there's too much money involved. They'll get something done. All I will say is I'm not as optimistic.
Why? What about you, Mike?
Well, but just because there's so much turmoil right now at the NFLPA, and I think there isn't a sense as to when midnight is. You know, when does the clock strike 12? Is it at the start of the last capped year like it was in 2006? Apparently not, because there's no negotiations right now. Is it the start of the uncapped year? Is it when the contract expires? I think both sides have to get on the same page quickly as to when the clock strikes 12, because that's the deadline for getting a deal done.
And the players are entrenched in their view that they do not want to give back any of the gross revenues. They're at 60% right now. and the owners are at the point where they're laying off employees, and they feel like they're giving away way too much money, and they're not making very much money in this particular economy that we're in. Rich, this is going to be an issue. This is going to be a real issue.
The economy is going to play a major role in
the economy, the agreement that they have now, how much revenue each feels it's entitled to going forward, the debt service that is now carried on the stadiums. There are a lot of issues, and it does not look pretty.
And the key is to grow the pie. That's why we're hearing about a 17th and an 18th regular season game, because the bigger that pie is, the more money everybody makes. And even if you cut back from 59 cents on the dollar to 57, you still add more total dollars for the union.
All right, my eyes are glazing over.
Yeah.
So let's wrap this part up by kicking off a rapid fire, if you will, yes or no question and answer session, which you, again, as a lawyer, can understand, yes or no. Yes,
just yes or no.
Yes, no. Well, you can expound on it a little bit. Yes or no? Is there going to be a labor stoppage in the National Football League in the next couple of years?
He looks at me first. He wants me to go out on a limb first. I think there's a good chance there will be. That's more than yes or no, but I think there's a good chance.
What do you think?
Yes.
You say yes. Let's get to this particular offseason. Is there anything that this Terrell Owens in Dallas scenario? Well, you're hearing all sorts of stuff, but he's still there, and he represents such a large part of their offense. And anything that he said this year was off camera. I mean, he's not doing sit-ups on the front lawn. He took care of his business in-house this year. Is there any smoke in this fire, or what? If
there is, Terrell Owens hasn't gotten the memo yet. He seems to be very confident that he's going to be back. He wouldn't be doing a reality show on VH1. He'd be focusing on making himself the best receiver that he possibly can.
You know, it's funny. That was the first thing I thought of when I read about his reality show, the fact that it's entirely possible that he will not have a team to play for this summer, that he'll be doing that reality show at home, because I can tell you there's smoke to that Cowboy fire.
No kidding.
Oh, there is smoke to that Cowboy fire.
So that would be a very real reality show then. So yes or no, Terrell Owens a Dallas Cowboy in 2009?
No.
No is right.
No.
He's not going to be a Cowboy in 2009,
Go
in my opinion.
Figure. Donovan McNabb, an Eagle in 2009?
No.
Yes.
Where does he go? Expound on that no answer.
Well,
and how does this happen? Because he's under contract. Does he make life difficult for Joe Banner and Jeff Lurie and Andy Reid in some way, shape, or form by blogging some quote or something? I mean, how does he get that exit strategy?
I think his strategy is, and this is a Seinfeld reference, and we're replete with them. This is the old George Costanza. I am breaking up with you. He's going to take the initiative. I'm serious. He's going to take the initiative. He's going to make this thing happen, because he knows one more missed playoffs, and they're going to dump him. So why not take the high road now? Seize the initiative and get to Minnesota if he can.
Let me say this
How does he do that?
I think that in a perfect world, Donovan McNabb would like to be traded. I do. Now, if you're the Philadelphia Eagles and you're looking at this situation, number one, they've always asked for way more for Donovan McNabb than they should. When a team called them 2 years ago to explore the possibility of a trade, they asked for, in return for Donovan McNabb, 3 number-1 picks. And I would imagine this offseason, if the Vikings or Bears or Buccaneers or any team called to inquire what the price might be now, it would be minimum 2 number-1s. Now, there's going to be an issue there. There is an absolute issue there, because they have to make a decision about whether they want to give him the security that he's seeking, whether they can commit more money to him, whether they can make him comfortable with what happened in the past while moving forward into the future. But if you're the Philadelphia Eagles, Rich, and you went to the NFC Championship game, how do you say we're trading this guy that's been to the NFC Championship game 5 times and move on and turn over the franchise to Kevin Cobb?
You certainly
can't do that.
And you certainly don't ship him to Minnesota. I mean, there's no way on this green earth that the Eagles would go ahead and do that and ship him to their former offensive coordinator. I mean, there's no way.
Well, they've taken a hard line with players in the past, like Lito Shepard and Terrell Owens, but I think it's a different dynamic with Donovan McNabb. If he gets it in his head that he's going to get out of there, I think he's going to find a way out.
But even Lito Shepard, they didn't trade him.
Well, I know, but it's
one less valuable to them.
Right, but it's one thing to draw a line with a guy that you've benched at cornerback. It's another thing to stoke that fire with your starting quarterback, who's got a very good hand with the media, knows how to get his message out there. It will be an interesting ride if McNabb has decided he wants out.
It will be one of the stories of the offseason, but it will wind up, I believe, with Donovan in Philadelphia.
A few more of these. Brett Favre, does he play anymore?
I think that he still will. I think he's going to try to find his way to Minnesota, frankly.
Minnesota? What's with you in Minnesota? You feeling Minnesota? What's with you in...
Well, they need a quarterback.
Did you back up McNabb there?
If you're a quarterback and you want to win a Super Bowl, that's the place where you want to go.
But how would Favre get from the Jets to Minnesota?
Because
and isn't there still in that trade? I mean, they still... they still can't trade him to minutes. At least it was last
Three
year.
first-round picks if they trade him.
Right. So does that still take place?
Rich,
still, or that
he's got a $13 million salary cap number for next year. The Jets have to adjust for that by the start of the league year. So either they keep him or they cut him. If they cut him, then he can go sign with Minnesota if he so chooses.
Oh, so that would be the route for him to do.
He's going to try to get a free and clear release by February 27, and then
from the Jets,
and then June or July maybe he resurfaces.
Do you agree with that assessment?
Listen,
that's a fascinating storyline because, as we know with Favre, it's never over. And at least it hasn't been yet. It hasn't been.
The whole thing.
So he could say, I'm leaving the Jets. I'm just going to stay on my farm. And then July again after the OTAs.
He could ruin my summer again. He could ruin his summer again.
Oh, it was great for business.
All right,
no, I like it. I want it again.
LaDainian Tomlinson, let's rumor monger a little bit here. Just from what I'm seeing, this sounds like they want him to take less money to stay. And he's coming out and saying, I'm not going anywhere. And the Chargers are putting pressure on him by saying, A.J. Smith sounds like, we're moving forward. And now they seem to be making up in the press. What's going on? What's going on with this, Mike?
Well, Tomlinson has hinted that he'd be willing to restructure and take less money. And I think the question's going to be, what would he get from another team if he takes a hard line and gets cut? And even though other teams aren't supposed to put the feelers out there, there are ways that Tom Condon, his agent, can find out what the market is for LaDainian Tomlinson. And I think the Chargers would probably don't want to pay him what they owe him this year, but they'd pay him more than anybody else would for 2009.
Tom Condon is smart enough not to figure out what some team would be willing to pay LaDainian. He already knows what some team would be willing to pay LaDainian Tomlinson. And the one thing we've seen is that by and large, unless you are a running back in the prime of your career like a Brandon Jacobs, who will get paid this offseason, someone like LaDainian Tomlinson does not have a tremendous value on the market. Teams are not willing to spend big money on 30-year-old running backs that have had declining production every year from 2006 to 7 to 8. And LT's been an unbelievable player in this league, and he deserves a great, glorious finish. And it should be in San Diego, and you'd like to think that the two sides will work it out. He has more value to that team than anybody else. Plus, San Diego's got another free agent issue on its hands in Darren Sproles.
Sure.
He's an unrestricted free agent.
Yes or no? Is LT a Charger next year?
I think he will be.
I agree.
You both agree. Well, I could keep going on like this. This is a lot of fun. Good to finally see in person. You're out in the open now. People know who you are.
I can't hide.
You can't just chill there in your law firm in West Virginia and fire shots at people like him and me and all that sort of stuff. We know who you are and where you live now, Mike Florio.
All right.
Thanks for joining us.
All right. Thanks,
Profootballtalk.com.